The most important conversation that you're ever going to have is the conversation that you're having with yourself right now. And if you don't learn how to control that voice, it will control your future. So today, I'm going to teach you how to master the one thing that determines whether you live in purpose or you live in pain. I did not change my life by working more hours, working harder. I changed my life by working on understanding my identity and thinking differently about myself every single day. Now, what we're going over today is your self talk. This is the way you view yourself. This is the way you speak to yourself on a day to day basis that creates the reality that you live in. I remember when I was first starting my business, I was 17 years old, jumping into entrepreneurship. I had done sales a couple years prior, but in that time, I was very insecure. I had a very high ego, and I was living with a mentor of mine that was teaching me how to do these things, that was teaching me how to think, that was teaching me how to overcome insecurity. And it wasn't until he said, Leo, I've heard you for the past 2 weeks talk to yourself. Every time you mess up, you call yourself an idiot. Every time you get back late, you start speaking negatively. And I hear the way you talk to others. It's incredibly negative. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it's incredibly negative. And I sat back those 2 days after he said that to me, and I started to realize how absolutely negative I was speaking to myself during those times, which he prompted this idea that how you do anything is how you do everything. And I had sat back with myself and realized that the reason I did not like other people was because I didn't like myself, was because every time I made a mistake, which is a lot of times, I would say bad things about myself. Or any time that I was about to do a sale, I was hopping on a sales call, I would say to myself, I really hope they don't answer. I'm probably not going to get this sale. So I would constantly self-sabotage myself. But then I started to realize everything that I'm doing, I've brought upon myself through the negativity that I've spoken out to myself. But that negativity was because I grew up around a lot of negative people who spoke those things out to themselves. And I didn't know any better. I would take their words, their negativity, the words from the music I listened to, from the TV shows that I watched, from social media, from YouTube videos, from everything, and that became my language and that became my inner dialogue. So I'm going to show you exactly step by step for how to overcome that in the same way that I had in that same moment. Because what I started to realize was instead of looking at my life in such a negative view and such a negative outcome, I would simply reframe those words. I would ask myself, what happens if the opposite is true? I keep calling myself an idiot, but what happens if I'm a genius? And what if I truly believe that? What happens with my life? And I started to repeat those things to myself over and over and over again until I started to feel a sense of, hey, I'm not an idiot anymore. And I'm not this identity that I kept boxing myself into. And you probably feel that in your own life. And you probably have moments where you call yourself things that maybe someone else called you. Maybe someone in middle school or high school or college called you a certain name, or they boxed you into a certain box, and you decide to keep yourself there. And for so many years, everything you did wrong or everything you did even right, you would self-sabotage yourself with those words. So we're going to cover what is called the art of transformation. ART stands for awareness, reframe, and transform. Write that down. Awareness, reframe, and transform. So awareness is this idea that you can't change what you're not aware of. If you don't know how negative you're being to yourself, you can't change those thoughts. So the first thing we have to do is sit for a minute right here with me. Sit and just think of the thoughts that you're currently thinking. You might be thinking, oh, what do I have to eat? What do I have to eat for lunch? Or oh, I got to get all these different things done. Or hey, I really like what this guy's talking about. Really pay attention to those thoughts. And when you can start that process today, right now, you're paying attention to those thoughts. Pay attention to the thoughts when you accidentally drop your glass and you start calling yourself clumsy, or you call yourself an idiot, or you say, I can't believe, like, why am I so stupid? Pay attention to when you're about to do a sales call, or when you're about to hop on a meeting, or when you are about to go to a networking event. Pay attention to those thoughts. Some negative self-belief, some negative self-talk that I often hear and I heard in myself for so long is, I'm not good enough. I always mess up. I'm not smart enough. I'm too young. What those beliefs do to us is it sticks in our mind and it becomes and solidifies as a belief. And us as humans, when we have a belief, we do everything we can to prove that belief to be true. It gives us a solid world frame when our beliefs are true. So that's why when you drop a glass, you're like, yep, that's why I'm an idiot. Or if you lose out on a client, yep, that's why I'm not good enough. Or somebody cuts you off in traffic and they flip you off, and you're like, yep, that's why everybody hates me. And you can start to see that, wow, I know some people who say those things out loud and it feels so off. It feels so negative because they have a negative worldview because of the words that they say to themselves. So a prompt that I want you to ask yourself is, what is one phrase that holds you back the most? And you kind of jumble them together because you might have 5, 6, 7 words or phrases that you say. But if you put them all together in one big phrase, it typically lands in the I'm not enough realm, right? I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'll never be enough. And that's awareness. Okay, I realize that the reason I don't feel like I'm good enough, the reason why I'm not succeeding in my business, the reason why my relationships are failing, the reason why you name it, is because of this centralized belief that I am not good enough. So what do? That's A, it's awareness. We go to R, which is to reframe. So when we can understand how negative we're being to ourselves, now we ask the question, what if the opposite was true? What if you were called? What if God gave you such a strong purpose and such a strong calling to be on this earth to do whatever it is that you're doing? That's the opposite, right? I'm not good enough to, God put me here to be enough, and He's made me enough. What if that were true? What would your life look like? And I really want you to imagine that, right? If you want to close your eyes and you take a deep breath in and you breathe it out, and you get yourself in a very calm, relaxed state, and you just start to imagine, what if I was enough? What if I was better than enough? What would your life look like? What if you were so incredibly confident and you were a genius at your craft and you were so disciplined? What would your life look like? What would be different? What kind of house would you live in? Who would be around you? And every time you start asking these questions, guys, your brain starts shooting off different ideas and different doors that you've never even opened up for yourself because you've always said that I'm not good enough. So the doors are always closed. We simply have to open those doors by asking ourselves, what if I was good enough? What if God put me here to do something amazing? What could that look like? And now when you're in that state of mind, when you're in that state of visualizing who that person could be, you just ask yourself, what would that future self be saying to myself right now? What would my future self say? What would my future self do? Because we have to understand, back to the original idea, all the things that we say to ourselves become true, become our reality. If we constantly say that you're insecure, we don't typically say that. We typically say, I'm not good enough, or I'm an idiot. The more you say that to yourself, the more your brain tries to prove what you believe is true. I'm an idiot, so when I knock my glass over, that's why I'm an idiot. Or if I trip, that's why I'm an idiot. Or if I say the wrong thing on stage, God forbid, I'm an idiot. We always try to prove what is true. But what if you just simply tried to prove to yourself over and over again why you are a genius, or why you're confident, or why you deserve to be loved, or why you are loved, right? You wake up in the morning and you thank God for a beautiful day. Hey, that's why I deserve to be loved. You go brush your teeth, you drink some water, and you go out for a nice, beautiful walk, and you start thanking God for what He's given you. You start being grateful. That's why you're a grateful person, or that's why you're so confident, right? You're starting to then prove to yourself why you are these things by doing these actions, right? What would your future self do? And when you go to a coffee shop, you open the door for someone and you say to yourself, hey, this is why I'm a confident person. This is why I'm a genius. This is why I love myself and other people love me. Of course, because you're trying to prove to yourself then why that is the case. And now let's just say you've had this negative mindset for so long of, I'm not good enough. 2-3 weeks of proving to yourself why you are good enough will then put you in a neutral state, right? Your brain doesn't fight the fact that you're not good enough. Your brain simply is just in a neutral state. Another 2 weeks, and now guess what happens? The I am good enough, the positive side, the positive affirmations are stronger, much stronger than the negative. Eventually, it outweighs so much that when you drop your glass, your brain says, that's okay. It happens sometimes. Because you've shut out this other voice in your head that says, I'm an idiot. Because you've overflowed it with the fact that you're a genius, the fact that you are loved, the fact that you are so confident because of continual reframe and positive affirmation to yourself. That right there is the game, but you can see that it takes a certain amount of time for it to outweigh. There's a lot of different words. There's a lot of different negative thoughts that right now we currently have. And our job is to outweigh every single one of them until you become your own best friend, until you become your greatest coach, your greatest ally. Because if you think about it, how would you talk to your best friend if they dropped a glass? And I use this all the time because we always drop glasses, right? Or at least I do. You drop a glass. Your best friend will probably say, like, no, I got it. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. Right? At least that's what Andrew would do. But for myself now, if I drop a glass, you've probably seen me on this show plenty of times dropping our tea or dropping our glass. I'll never say to myself, oh, I'm such an idiot, or I can't believe I'm so clumsy. I'll just laugh and say, I got it. I'll take care of it. That's when you become your own best friend. So when you go to a networking event, or you're starting a new business, or you're about to work out, or maybe you skipped a workout, you will always treat yourself like you would treat your best friend, assuming that you're a good friend. So guys, that is R. So we went A, which is awareness, R, which is to reframe. Now we're going to bundle it all together with T, which is to transform. Transformation happens through repetition and reinforcement. We need a daily practice. I like to say like a second practice, but we'll call it a daily, hourly practice. Let's stick with hourly. You need something to consistently reaffirm yourself and consistently get yourself back in the state of mind to reinforce the beliefs that you are confident, or you are a person worth loving, or you are a God-led man, a God-led woman, whoever it is that you want to be, whoever it is that you want to see yourself as. Because you could choose whatever you want. You can see yourself as dumb, idiot, or you can see yourself as genius, incredibly capable. It is completely up to you based on how you talk to yourself consistently. So something I like to do in the beginning was I would give myself pep talks in the mirror. And it was the weirdest thing ever, but you go into the mirror and you just simply talk to yourself as if you've known yourself for a while, but you love yourself. In the beginning, it's a little bit hard because you start noticing all these things that you don't love. But here's the thing. You simply point those things out and say, I love that about you. You're beautiful and you're so confident, right? It's very like positivity, self-love type stuff, but it works because I would rather you go into the mirror and say you love things about you and then go work out and go eat better for the sake that you love the person, you love you, so you do those things, rather than going in the mirror and saying, oh, I hate this about you, I hate this about you, and then eating terribly because you're stressed because you hate yourself. I would much rather you love yourself for that. So mirror talk, I do that every single, I still do it every day as I'm brushing my teeth. Hey, you look good today. Today's gonna be such a great day. God has blessed you on this earth. I say those things every single day. In the beginning, it was really hard and it felt really, 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 really weird. Next thing is affirmations. You've heard about them, but here's how I do affirmations. As I'm going throughout my day, I will say I am statements, but I am becoming statements for the things that I don't fully believe in yet. Before I was confident, I was very, very insecure. I would say I am becoming more and more confident every day. And anytime I get a chance to say that, I would say it. Because what it does is you have so many data points throughout the day. You have, just because I look at the water, you have your water. I'm drinking water, right? I am so confident because I'm drinking water. Perfect. I love myself, right? I love myself because I'm drinking water. Okay, if I'm doing some work, I do about 30 minutes of work, for example. I am so confident. I'm becoming more and more confident as I'm doing my work. And I say it consistently over time. And everything that I can possibly do, everything is data, right? If I meet up with a friend, if I cook myself some dinner, if I do just about anything, I will tell myself that affirmation right then and there. The last two that I want to give you guys here is I will go for a walk, and on that walk, I will simply talk to myself out loud. I will have that conversation as if I'm talking to my best friend. And now, I'll talk to God in those moments, but I'll simply say, Leo, you're doing a good job. How are you today? And I'll respond like I'm doing pretty good. I feel like days are going well. I feel like I'm getting more confident. I feel like life's getting better. Business is going well. Relationships are going well. And I'll say those things out loud to myself, again, as if I'm talking to my best friend. And when you start to do these things together, you start to realize that you're shifting your inner dialogue. You're shifting the way you speak to yourself. You're shifting everything about yourself because of your self-talk. And you'll start to notice 1 week, 2 weeks go by, and life starts to look a little bit lighter. Things start to look a little bit brighter. You start to look at yourself in a brighter light, and everything starts to change about you. Other people look at you and they ask you, like, what has happened to you? And it's such a beautiful feeling that you go through of detoxing the negativity out of your life. Now, I want to give you one more because this is the one I still do. But anytime you see an arch, like a doorway, right, something you have to walk through, use that as a time to say something nice about yourself or remind yourself of a very important affirmation. You walk through a door, I'm very confident, or I am loved, or I love myself. And that way, you probably walk through 10, 20, 30 doors every single day. You might as well have 30 times that you say something nice about yourself. I went over a lot right there, but that is the art of transformation. That right there, if you do it, if you simply start by being aware of your thoughts, reframing one or two of those thoughts, and then transforming by staying disciplined, saying it every single day, your life will change in about 2 weeks. That is the game. I want to say this one more time. Make sure you actually do it. Every change that you want starts by changing your inner dialogue, starts by changing what you say to yourself. And everything I just said is not a new thing. It's not a new idea. This is all biblical principle that has been around for so long. I have here Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. This is the art of transformation. I wanted to keep this one quick. I wanted to kind of just lay out the principle here because this is something I'm studying every single day. This is something I'm getting better at every day, but it is the single biggest thing that has changed my entire life. And the one thing I can ask of you is that you implement it today. All right. That is it for those of you watching live. By the way, John, cut it off right there. For those of you watching live, I am practicing understanding these concepts that have changed our life so much. And this is a framework that I've been using for the past couple of years, but a framework that today, like 45 minutes ago, I thought of. So I wanted to use this live to practice it. But really, everything you do, use it as a place for you to affirm yourself. And you will literally become the brightest, most confident, most energetic, most capable version of yourself. And you will never again fall in a rut because you will always get yourself back up. And anyone around you will always improve because you no longer let them say the negative things that they say to themselves. Instead, you start to, in an interesting way, get them to start talking so bright about themselves because of how they listen to you talk. So this was good practice for me. I appreciate you guys who are on here giving that space. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. I didn't look at the comments today because I was dialed in on the actual teaching. This is one that I'm going to post later on and keep getting better and better and better at. So have a beautiful day. We'll be back here. Andrew will be back with me tomorrow, same time, same place. And say some nice things to yourself. All right. Peace out. Have a great day. Bye-bye.